Alright, we've now had a bit of hands-on time with Marathon, at least those of us who've jumped into it. I'm going to jump in with some early impressions on the experience overall, and I should reiterate that this is early, so players will of course form their own opinions over time. Last time I had the opportunity to play Marathon was in the closed alpha, and the game overall is a lot more polished than it was back then, which makes sense. Bungie delayed it, they've taken extra time. On the visual components, the worlds generally look pretty good now, but I feel like that definitely depends on the kind of lighting and stuff. When there's a lot of fog, I actually feel like the game doesn't look anywhere near as good as it does at other points in the kind of day-night cycle, right? Sometimes it feels like it looks really good, other times less so. Character models still kind of leave a little bit to be desired, I would say. Obviously, Marathon's visual style has been divisive ever since the beginning, and of course Bungie haven't reinvented the wheel in the time since they delayed the game, so there are big improvements there, but obviously whether you like the art style and all of that is still going to come down to personal preference. One thing which is probably getting the most consistent feedback right now is that the UI is an absolute cluster biff, or whatever the appropriate word would be for it. Destiny 2 players for a long time have kind of referred to menu simulator the game. Marathon definitely has those vibes, and I think to an extent that will always be the case in a game like this, because it's an extraction shooter. There's a lot of inventory management, objectives, quests, contracts, whatever they're called, but they're all kind of housed in various menus that are scattered left, right, and center. And sometimes, if you're queuing up for a match, but then you need to go back to your vault or back to your faction and look at the objectives and things, it can be pretty jarring. There's a lot going on. Folks who've perhaps played other games like Tarkov might be a little bit less put off by this particular UI, but most casual players, most gamers in general, I feel like are going to have generally kind of a difficult time with Marathon's UI in its current format. And of course, this is the launch version of the game essentially at this point, so we're not really anticipating anything massively changing there. The moment-to-moment gameplay certainly has that big push-pull component, right? You go from things being really quiet and kind of slow-paced to suddenly being in this high lethality combat, and that's whether you're playing against PvE enemies or other players. But when you do get into those kind of really clean, crispy PvP fights, actually, I feel like that's the best part of Marathon right now. It's at least the most exciting bit, right? That's where the dopamine hits. Ultimately, finding other players to fight is absolutely my favorite bit at this precise moment. PvE enemies and encounters do feel a little bit uninspiring. And while Bungie have kind of tuned that stuff, they've added more enemy density and generally more threat, it hasn't moved significantly away from where it was 10 months ago in the alpha, so that would be my impression of it. And indeed, in terms of getting into PvP combat, most of the times where that seems to happen is when players are actually engaging with PvE, right? So either you're fighting other enemies and then you get third-partied, or it's the other way around and you hear gunfire in the distance and are able to potentially sneak up on another team who are engaged with the PvE enemies. And the fact that they are so threatening, you lose your shields very quickly. So yeah, if you get swiped by another team when you're fighting PvE enemies, you'll get taken out really quickly. Obviously, I have the benefit of having actually played a bit of Marathon, albeit quite a long time ago at this point. Since then, Bungie have added other gameplay components and abilities to runners, and that feels a lot better and more interesting, but I'm not sure they've kind of fundamentally changed the feel of the game very significantly since back then. Safe to say overall though, I do not think Marathon is going to be a casual friendly game. A lot of extraction shooters aren't, Arc Raiders kind of being the most relaxing experience, right, from this type of game that we get. On the other end of that spectrum, you've got things like Tarkov, and Marathon really does feel like the survival components of the extraction shooter are front and center, and it kind of sits somewhere in between the two. Not necessarily as hardcore as Tarkov, but considerably more hardcore overall than something like Arc Raiders. Something I do think that Marathon does really well though is the kind of progression system in the endgame, which largely does focus around factions, at least in the server slam right now. There are a bunch of upgrades and there's kind of a skill tree. I think at the minute we're kind of capped out at rank 7 on any of the factions. But actually completing those objectives and unlocking stuff on the skill tree opens up direct purchase options for weapons, stat boosts, gear, mods and all that kind of stuff. So there's that, and we get a lot of kind of sponsored kits and sets of unlocks when we actually complete faction contracts. So in that kind of early to mid-end game part of Marathon, getting gear in general is relatively easy if you play the objectives. So I think the faction and progression system for the game actually is one of the strongest points. And I also like the component of kind of finding keys or mini events in the world that kind of lead us on a chase to find locked doors or survive multiple rounds of UASC, while simultaneously avoiding or trying to avoid or survive PvP engagements, right, and the risk of that. So there's definitely a loop there, but after even just a couple of hours again, I think it's safe to say this game is going to appeal at best to relatively hardcore extraction shooter fans. And while it is a bit early, I think as well, other kind of economy components like ammo will likely end up being a point of frustration for players. Another big concern I have at this precise moment though, this is from my experience playing on PC, but my game was actually relatively stable. However, some of the other folks I've been playing with have experienced a lot of crashes, and that isn't just error codes and kind of server related stuff, but the actual client crashing. And while I appreciate that may change with the full launch, it is a bit concerning that this build of the game seems to be running into those issues consistently. So overall, it is very mixed right now in terms of opinion around Marathon. Also, it was kind of funny, but on initial launch, Arc Raiders was actually censored if you type it into text chat in the game. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's no longer censored. Also, Bungie appeared to have reset my Bungie name the moment that I got into the server slam, which isn't really part of this review, but just kind of typical Bungie funkiness. So I guess as I alluded to, the main chase for me at the minute is the progression systems interspersed with the possibility of PvP combat. That's the dopamine when I'm actually playing Marathon. I think the PvE at the minute just doesn't feel massively exciting, and maybe things will change on that front in more of the endgame content, but I feel like the needle hasn't especially moved on that since where the game was 10 months ago. Those are my kind of raw initial impressions on the game. You'll have seen lots of opinions from streamers if you've been watching. I haven't really had the chance to do that yet, so while I know it is mixed, it's hard to get a sense of exactly how the bulk of people are feeling about Marathon. However, we are 5 hours in, if you're interested. The Steam peak was 143,000 players, and after a few hours it still has just shy of 120,000 players. Which doesn't seem dreadful so far. I know Highguard, just as a reference point, it's not a great reference point, but that lost a lot more players a lot more quickly than this. I'd also say on the subject of Marathon being, quote, hardcore, it's kind of the game has a big learning curve, right? There's a lot of items, a lot of controls, and a lot of UI, which I think will limit Marathon's appeal in terms of the general gaming audience, although that isn't necessarily a big surprise based on what Marathon is actually supposed to be. So those are my thoughts. Here's a little bit of gameplay of me and the team getting into some fights against other players and extracting. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm not going to draw any further conclusions than that. We'll watch over the next 24 hours or so, and we'll get a much better idea of what the general population thinks of the game and how the numbers hold up. That's going to be really important, as we know. So let me know your thoughts. If you found the video interesting, a rating would help us out as well. But otherwise, cheers for watching, and I'll catch you all very soon.
Hey, on me. Drop down. Downed one. How many is that?
One left.
Two.
One.
One left.
Gotta be. We got UESC here as well.
But they're all dead, are they? 3 bodies here.
Oh, is that? Bosh!
I don't know if they're the same squad.
Completed.
Completed the game.
Easiest one yet.
Oh, I stole his blue Magnum as well. I'll have your ammo too, geezer. Now we just got to figure out how to manage this UI and we'll be laughing. That player?
He's going into this building.
Let's go low. Yeah.
Sec boys. I was looting
Why
that
am I...
fucking thing.
My abilities are blocked again. He's upstairs.
One down.
He's disrupted.
Nice.
Yes.
Flanking.
So I tried to flank.
On you, Johnny. Got him. Sweet.
Coming. He's two in there.
Oh,
two in there.
Knifed him.
See ya.
Yeah, there's one on me. Lucky this one's still dead in.
Just wants a bit of dead in. Does it like take longer to load like the higher value items when you're looting?
He's all dead now. Whoa, this is a mark. I think this is
Yeah,
like
mate. We've had them.
This is like, look at all these.
Oh yeah, locked box.
Start out. There's more bots down here.
Is that it? Oh mate, some of these USC literally look like runners, don't they?
Pop in my ult.
What?
This is where the game's gonna get us back now. Oh mate, am I out of ammo?
Whoa, he sniped me. Is that players?
I don't know.
Might be players. Grenades. That's cool, whatever you just did.
Oh yeah, he is. Player up top.
I need to heal, I'm backing up a bit. I'm dead.
Mate, I'm having to heal as well.
Yeah, there's cornered there.
Oh no.
You get f***ed as well.
Yep. Was that a player?
Can you get out in that?
No, mate, I can't get out.
Have I just crashed?
Why is it not?
I've crashed.
Oh no, you've. Oh no, he's gonna kill you now anyway. Mate, he's just letting you watch. Oh, that was brutal. Did you get kicked?
I crashed as soon as
Oh yeah.
extract went.
He killed you after you got kicked.
I was in the thing when it extracted, so I don't know if I got out.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
Did it say
Exfiltrated,
eliminated?
what does that mean?
Oh, you
Yeah.
survived? Yeah.
Fucking get in.
I hate you.